back with another one. We're going to be talking about the Ryan Hinton autopsy report come back today. So I'm gonna wait for a few of you guys to check in so we can get this chat going on. So let me know if let me go and check to make sure that everybody can hear me. Okay, I have audio. Here we go. So we good. Okay, so yeah, I'm gonna wait for a few people to check in before I start the conversation. So I'm just waiting on a few of you guys to check in. Okay, look like I got somebody watching. So, yeah, we're gonna start it off. The autopsy report of Ryan Hinton came back today. And the coroner's office was pretty much I'm not gonna say being transparent about the situation, but they were just talking in medical terminology, not trying to be transparent on the actual facts and what happened. So I'm gonna wait for a few more people to check in, and I'll go on ahead and weigh in on what I think. About what the coroner's office was saying about this autopsy report. So the chat is open. I need for you guys to, go in there, and interact with me. Let me know what you think about the situation. Did you hear the coroner's office read off the autopsy report? Let me know. And if you're not a subscriber to the channel, please hit that subscribe button. So I'm gonna wait for a few more people to come in, and then I'll start the chat and the conversation. So how y'all day been going? What's been up though? Let me know how your day been going. Yeah. How your weekend go? What y'all do over this past weekend? You have a good weekend? So like I said, I'm just waiting on a few more people to jump in before I start the conversation. You're more than welcome to chat with me through the chat. The chat line. I mean, the chat is open, so we can conversate and get it cracking. I sent out a few invites, so I'm waiting on people to come in if they want to come in and join. So I'm waiting on that. So like I said, I'm waiting on a couple of more people to come in before I start actually talking. So yeah, the autopsy report came back today. They read it off, and you know, it's just kind of interesting. Like I said, I'm waiting on more people to come in before I go in and weigh in on what I think about the situation. And go check out my previous show that I just did. I released the actual footage of the coroner reading off the autopsy report. So, I got a few people here watching now. So I need for you guys to make sure that if you're not subscribed to the channel, go and hit that subscribe button. But the chat is open. I need for you guys to interact with me. I'm going to be talking about Ryan Hinton's autopsy report right now. To me, I don't think that the coroner was being transparent. And what kind of fucked me up about the whole situation, she was actually not the coroner who actually performed the autopsy. She was just there to read off the autopsy report. So I thought that was kind of strange and kind of weird, But from what she was saying, a lot of this shit, she was trying to back up the Cincinnati Police Department and the things that what she was saying, and then the way that she was speaking. I'm not saying the things that she was saying was not true, but you can kind of tell that the things that she was saying, she was trying to, make sure that everything aligned up with what the Cincinnati Police Department was been saying all along. But to me, the report lines up with what the still photos were showing. You know what I mean? And from what it was saying that he was shot twice, maybe three times. They're not all the way for sure. But he was shot the first time in his side. And I think they said like the eighth rib or some shit like that. You know what I mean? And then the second time he was shot in the upper lateral back. And that's what they said. And when you look up what that terminology means in medical terminology, it means he was shot in the goddamn upper and the back. You know what I mean? So she didn't want to say it. She was trying to, I'm not going to say try to cover that part up, but um, She just didn't come out and say it, So when the news reporters asked that question, an original video that I looked at, they actually looked up the terminologies that she was speaking. And when she read that term, and one of the terminologies that she spoke off, which was the left upper lateral, which means the back. So I don't know why she just didn't come out and say it, and then he was shot from the side, which they said that was the actual shot that killed him. It went through his side and it came out over in his right chest, I believe. It came out, or no, it came out. I believe they said by his head or some shit like that. But from the still videos, man, and from what we saw and from what we know thus far, the young man did not turn around. He was not a threat. Even the coroner in the medical report, said it was a murder. You know what I mean? So all along, the Cincinnati Police Department has been trying to cover this situation up. Even with the still photos, they tried to give us some blurry shit that we couldn't see, but you had a lot of bloggers and podcasters that was out there, that was breaking these still photos down, and had the capability of actually zooming in, better than what they did. So and once those photos were analyzed and zoomed in, you saw that this young man didn't have a firearm in his hand at all. He was actually running away, trying to get away from the police officer. So that's why when he was shot, it said it may have went through his arm and traveled up and went like out through that way, and it came out of his chest, one of the shots, the shot that was fatal. You know what I mean? And they don't know what order it was in, but you know what I mean? At the end of the day, this young man was murdered, and what I do and what I pray, and I'm quite sure I know the family has hired their own doctors and lawyers, to be able to do their own autopsy report, and they're going to come back probably pretty much with the same findings, but they're just going to be upfront and real with it and transparent. This woman that they brought up there today, pretty much was coinciding with the Cincinnati Police Department. She really wasn't trying to say, to us and to the public and to the family what really happened. She was talking in medical terms, not being transparent of what actually happened. So yeah, I need for you guys to like, comment, subscribe, and share. Let me know um, if you saw the actual report and you agree with what she was saying. You know what I mean? Because from what she was trying to say, she was, like I said, trying to coincide from what the Cincinnati Police Department was saying. And it doesn't line up. From the still photos, from what he was saying, he feared for his life. Um, and it's still photos. It's not lining up from any of that. So, like I said, I just want to come in, and just talk real quick about this situation. I wanted to get you guys' opinion, what you think about this situation. Do you think even the coroner's office is trying to cover this situation up and they're not being transparent with this situation? Let me know. Like I said, I wanted a few people to come in and interact with me and give me their opinions on this situation. This is a big deal. You know what I mean, for the family. And I understand and I see why the father went out and did what he did. After watching the video of his son being cold-blooded murdered. And what a lot of people don't know, that police officer that shot and killed Ryan Hinton, he's under investigation for police brutality, for a lot of, for a few things, that's why they didn't want to release his name in the beginning. That's why they were trying to cover this shit up. They're all at fault, and it's all going to come out. You know what I mean? What goes on in the dark eventually comes to the light, and like I said, a lot of this shit, that's been going on in that Cincinnati Police Department is going to be coming to the light. So like I said, I want a few more people. I see people been jumping in and jumping out. I'm gonna wait for a few more people to come in and I'll finish talking. But I want you guys to be able to interact with me on this conversation. It's a good conversation, good topic. You know, um, a lot of people are disagreeing with what the actual autopsy report is saying. They're still trying to say that he wasn't shot in his back when it's clearly, the terminology that they're using is saying, in the medical terminology, is saying that, it was in the back, and it's clearly showing that he was shot in the side running away from the police officer, not blading up trying to shoot, in whatever angle that they were trying to draw up and say. But clearly, none of that happened. He wasn't trying to blade up. He wasn't a threat to the police officer that night. This was just a young man who made a bad decision that night and was just trying to get away from the police. The police, that's it. And it's their jobs to go out and try to catch, not to shoot, a man who's trying to get away. And that's what happened that night. And at the end of the day, the Cincinnati Police Department is just trying to take up for their own. And we as the people have to, take up for our own. When we see injustice and wrong has been committed and doing, we got to speak up and bring this shit out. I need for you guys to like, comment, subscribe, and share. Let this video get out. Let this shit, be heard. I definitely want you guys to interact. Let me know what you think about this situation. Let me know because, like I said, it's a lot of people saying that no matter that he was wrong for even trying to run from the police officer. He had a gun in his possession. They're trying to say that he deserved to be shot. And that's some bullshit. You know what I mean? Ohio is an open carry state. No matter if what if he had his license to carry? You know what I mean? The police officer didn't know that. He just jumped out and was running. It's their job to go and catch him. They didn't do that. Most of these officers are motherfucking fat, out of shape, and don't want to run. You know what I mean? And he had the ups on him, and he was gonna get away. And these motherfuckers didn't do their job. At the end of the day, they shot a man who was trying to get away, not a man who was trying to do harm to that police officer. And like I said, this same officer who shot and killed Ryan Hinton, he's already been under investigation for police brutality. Multiple times. That's why they didn't originally want to release his name. I definitely need for you guys to comment. Let me know what you think about this situation. Because like I said, this could have been me or you, or anybody. He didn't deserve to die. Whether he had a gun or not. This young man was trying to get away. Now I can understand if he jumped out the motherfucking car, start and and just shoot. You know what I mean? None of that happened. That's what these motherfuckers did. He jumped out the car running within 6 seconds. They were shooting within 6 seconds of him running, away from them. They were shooting, taking his life. They shot 5 times, I believe, hitting 2 to 3 times. You know what I mean? So it's up to them to try to catch you, not to fucking murder and shoot you in the motherfucking side or in the back, because that's what happened. They end up shooting this young man in the side and him going down and hitting him in the upper lateral, which is the back. You know what I mean? And they're trying to cover it up. The coroner who was reading off the report, she was not being transparent, on the things that she was saying. She was trying to stay in line with what the Cincinnati Police Department has been trying to, stick behind this blue line. And that's all they're trying to do. They're trying to stick behind this motherfucking crooked ass officer who's been out there doing shit for years. That's why they didn't want to release his name. Go find this motherfucker. Go look him up. That cross that he had on his hand, with a lot of motherfuckers broke it down and looked it up. He belongs to a white supremacist group, and they're allowing these motherfuckers to be in the police department, and knowing that these motherfuckers are racist and they're in predominantly black neighborhoods. So that right there is setting up for a bad disaster. You know what I mean? So I need for you guys to like, comment, subscribe, and share. Tell me what you think about this situation. It's been a few more other situations that's been going on, across the country, with these white supremacists. I don't know if you heard about the situation that happened in Atlanta, and I don't know how true that is because right now I haven't saw any evidence. It's just been a lot of hearsay. A lot of people have been talking about that, but you know, this whole Hinton situation, it's fucked up, and a lot of people are, can understand what the father was going through when he saw that, and a lot of people understand what he did was, you know, um, I'm not going to say justified, but we understood why he did what he did. After looking at those still photos, after seeing his son being murdered, what father wouldn't go out there and try to revenge his son's death? You know what I mean? Rather if it was the officer who actually did it or not, because well, he couldn't get the officer who did it because they wouldn't release his name. You know what I mean? So, and I'm not promoting violence, but these motherfuckers started with violence first. This young man was just trying to get away, because if they would have let him get away, he would have lived. He would be here now to this day. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, these motherfuckers did not do their job. This was a police officer, like I said, who's already been under investigation for police brutality. So yeah, I'm not going to hold you guys up long. I just wanted to come in and talk about this for a second. I just wanted to see who was up, who wanted to conversate, and talk about this issue. It's just at the end of the day, I'm just telling people, be aware, be on the lookout, because best believe, these motherfuckers gonna be wanting they get back for what's been going on. So stay strapped up and stay ready. You know what I mean? You know, because there's a lot of just bullshit that's been going on around the country, and you just got to be careful out here. You know what I mean? Like I said, and I wish I can't wait till the Hinton family come back with their autopsy report from and it's going to be a whole different situation. You know what I mean? So I'm not going to speak any more longer. I just want to come in, and talk about that for a little bit. So I'm not going to hold you guys up. It's your boy Dame D, and I am out. Peace.